So the US's new tariffs on vehicles and foreign parts will likely cause a lot of problems for many different stocks, more of which than you probably realize. So we're going to go over all the different sectors and individual stocks that could be negatively affected by these tariffs that are going into effect on April 3rd. So as you can see, reported on CNBC.com, Trump's new auto tariffs will likely drive up car prices. So we're going to basically summarize this a little bit, and we're going to go over each individual stock in different sections, different sectors, or different industries where they could actually be affected more than just individual car manufacturers. This is a 25% tariff on imported passenger vehicles, light trucks, as well as on key auto parts, including engines, transmissions, powertrain components. So according to analysts, this could lead to a difference in a $4,000 to $15,000 per vehicle increase in prices after these go into effect. For instance, a Bernstein analyst said that it would probably average around $6,700 per vehicle for the price to go up. If you read through this article, they all say about the same thing, somewhere between like $5,000 and $10,000 per vehicle, with a full range being somewhere around $4,000 to $15,000 per vehicle. Some people actually think that new vehicles will be affected a lot more as well. So one sector that could be affected that we all kind of already know is foreign automakers. Now we're talking Toyota, which actually makes a lot of vehicles in countries like Japan and Canada. So you have Volkswagen as well. They import a large number of vehicles into the US. BMW imports a lot of vehicles into the US from Germany. It's got very popular SUVs and sedans. You have Mercedes-Benz, of course, which is another German-originated car manufacturer. You have Honda, which is Japanese. And then you have Hyundai and Kia, which is South Korean. So Toyota, as you can see, not doing great year to date. A lot of stocks are not doing well year to date, but a lot of this is going to have a big negative impact. Ever since that news got announced, you can see Volkswagen going down a lot more. Even though they were doing pretty well this year, you know, he announced these tariffs very recently, just like in the past week or so. And ever since then, basically, Volkswagen's been going down because everyone knows Volkswagen is a major importer of vehicles into the U.S. If you look at BMW, which that's what all these words stand for. BMW is down 6.66% in the past month, 8.7% in the past 5 days. I'd say the past 5 days is a pretty obvious indicator of how bad it's been since Trump made that announcement. Mercedes-Benz, they are down 8.22% in the past 5 days. Honda, past 5 days, down almost 10%. And then Hyundai, which also covers Kia, is down about 6%. So next, another kind of down the line sector that's going to be affected by this, not just the car manufacturers, which obviously the US has probably the most diverse, you know, types of cars on the road in any country. But if you look at suppliers of parts and things like that, APTV, which is an automotive technology company, they supply a lot of parts to both domestic and foreign automakers, are expected to be hit hard by this. Also, Magna International, which is also another large supplier of parts and complete vehicle assemblies to the US and foreign automakers, could also be hit pretty hard by these tariffs. So if you look at APTV stock here, also called Aptiv, if you look at the last 5 days or so since this announcement, you're looking at minus 7.31%. You can see they took a pretty major dip in the last 5 days, actually less than 5 days. If you look at Magna International, last 5 days, you can see a noticeable dip as well after this got announced, down almost a full 10% just in the last 5 days. So automotive parts could be hit very hard by this. We also have car dealerships and retailers that may or may not be hit hard by this. This is just kind of speculation at this point, of course. But AutoNation is the largest automotive retailer in the U.S. They sell a wide range of different brands. They could be hit hard by this. They also have CarMax, which is very similar, one of the largest used car retailers in the U.S. Now, the thing about CarMax, a lot of people don't think that used cars may be affected as much as new car sales. So if you're looking at new car sales, you are going to definitely see a dip in the manufacturing stocks like BMW, Mercedes-Benz, etc. But if you look at if it doesn't impact used cars as much, which we don't know for sure if it will or not yet, CarMax, AutoNation, maybe they'll be okay. It's hard to say for sure. AutoNation right now, though, is down 7.57% in the past 5 days since all of this has been announced. CarMax, surprisingly, is up 6% somehow. Not great year to date, not as bad probably as the S&P 500 is, but they're down 6.09% in the past month, but they're up 6.09% in the past 5 days. So maybe the news is not hitting them hard yet. Maybe it's not triggering a sell-off for CarMax yet. It kind of remains to be seen if used cars will be hit hard by these tariffs. Now, you could make an argument that either way, tariffs will affect more luxury cars. Like you're talking six-figure or more cars like Porsche or Ferrari. These are typically brands that people who are pretty well off will buy. So if you are well off, are these differences in prices of a few $1,000s? In these cases, maybe five-figure differences if you go based on the kind of the percentage of the value of these cars. It still may not make a big difference because people who are buying luxury cars are people who are already pretty well off. They're not just living paycheck to paycheck most likely. So these may be affected, maybe not quite as much, but we'll see. But some people who are invested in these still will probably be selling off just out of fear. Porsche down 10.67% in the past 5 days. Ferrari is down 1.74% in the last 5 days, which isn't nearly as bad as a lot of the others so far. Now, some people will probably differ on whether or not these will have a negative or a positive impact on their stock. But Ford, of course, is seen as a US-based car manufacturer, and so is General Motors, who has a lot of different lines of cars. So these companies, while they are technically American made, or for the most part that's what they're known as, they still have plants in different parts of the world, and they still might import parts from different parts of the world. So it still could affect them a little bit, but also it could be an advantage in some areas as well. So if you look at Ford stock, they are down 2.53% in the past 5 days. They don't seem to be quite as impacted as some of the other foreign car companies, but General Motors is down 8.47%. So I think a lot of automotive stocks, of course the market in general is down. So what remains to be seen if this is just all the market in general or if a lot of these car manufacturers are being sold off. But as far as General Motors and Ford, it remains to be seen if this is really going to make much of a positive or negative impact on their stock. And then you have electric vehicle companies, otherwise known as EV companies. Tesla, of course, is US based, and obviously Elon Musk has a close relationship with Donald Trump, probably helped him get elected. So some people think that that connection could help him get certain things that would benefit Tesla, although Tesla has had a lot of problems worldwide recently. I'm sure you've seen the news. But Rivian, an electric vehicle manufacturer also based in the US, obviously not nearly as adopted as Tesla. These may or may not be severely affected by these tariffs. Tesla has a lot of problems. They are having a lot of people, setting fire to Teslas through just backlash of some of the actions from a political standpoint and things like that. But they're down 8.54% in the past 5 days. But year to date, Tesla is just kind of, nosediving down 31.67%. Rivian stock is actually up 2.13% in the past 5 days, maybe because people see them as, well, Tesla is going down. Maybe one of these EV brands will do better, and this one is also American made, so maybe they're not as affected by these tariffs going into effect on April 3rd. So I can kind of make the argument for why their stock is up 2% since these announcements, but they could also very well be hit hard as well. They may all have to increase their prices a little bit in the US. So obviously no financial advice here, just some things to consider if you're investing in any kind of vehicle related stocks, whether it's parts, whether it's manufacturers, and more. These tariffs could have a major impact because they are 25%, and the US is one of the most diversified countries in terms of vehicle imports.